How's it going, guys? I'm your host Korriban Sabers. Welcome back to another very special video. So for today's video, we don't have a saber showcase, but rather I'm going to be showing you guys how I am going to be modifying this Starkiller hilt. So you can purchase this Starkiller hilt from us, and this model I have here is the RGB variant. What I'm going to be doing is, of course, modifying the outside. So I'm going to weather it up like how the original Starkiller hilt looks, and then afterwards I'm going to be doing some internal mods as well, switching this to a Profi board. But before I do that, I think this video will probably be split into two parts. So the first part, I'm just going to be doing the externals of the hilt first. Alright, so first things first, you obviously want to take out all the screws and disassemble this whole lightsaber. Alright, so for the crystal chamber, I also got new actual quartz crystals that we are going to switch out. So the crystal chamber is held together by side screws. Okay, so you can see here the screw inside here, this is what holds the crystal in place. So there's one here and there's one here. Let me see if you guys can see it. Yeah, there's one here and there's one on the other side over here. So let's undo those. And the crystal is also held in place by hot glue. So yeah, just something to keep in mind. Oh, there we go. So this is the crystal that comes with it. Obviously it looks a bit too clean or smooth for it to be like a natural looking quartz crystal. So what I've done is I've gotten a pack of crystals from Amazon. Alright, they're very cheap, okay, and these are the few that I have selected. You get a lot more than these few pieces. In fact, I think you get like 10 pieces or something. So these are the pieces that I have shortlisted. I'm not sure which one I'm going to be using yet, but we can decide on that later on. So we'll set these aside, and then make sure you want to tuck the screw back in first so it doesn't, you know, fly out or anything. Right, so this is your crystal chamber piece. You don't need to unscrew anything else. Okay, maybe you might want to undo these two pieces, and this entire piece will pop up when you're putting in the crystal. We'll see if you can fit the crystal without removing this piece. Probably have to, but yeah, that's fine. That will be for later. Okay, so that's the crystal chamber piece. Now what we're going to be doing is we're going to be using blue painter's tape to mask up all of this here before we can start our spray painting. So you don't have to be too neat with the painter's tape. Just make sure you cover all the areas that you need to cover. The only parts where you need to be neat are like the top part, because that's like the part whereby you don't want to get paint on. Even then, I think this is hidden, so inside the crystal chamber, so it shouldn't matter that much. But you know, just in case you want to really go and tuck in the corners. I think I'm happy with that. Yeah, I think that'll do. So the inside is covered, the bottom part is covered. So this is the part that we will be spray painting it chrome. Okay, but before we do that, you want to sand it as well. So here I have some 400 grit sandpaper. I don't think it matters that much what grit you use. And this part, the sanding part is, this isn't chrome, so we are not really doing much weathering here. This is just to help the paint stick a bit better. Alright, so just give it a... You can do the painting, you should do the sanding before you know, go ahead and tape up everything. That's a mistake on my part, but it's really fine. Yeah, it's fine. Just make sure you get all the bottom edges as well, so the paint will stick well here. Make sure you get the top as well. The crevices, it's kind of hard to reach in there, so if you can't reach in there, I think it's fine. It's not a big deal. Yeah, you don't have to go too crazy with the sanding for this part, because really all you're aiming for is to make sure that the paint can stick well. Not really aiming for a weathered look here, since it's gonna get painted up anyway. Alright, so now that that's done, let's start to work on the other parts here. Alright, so we can start working on this top part here. This switch box is actually held in by two screws. You can take it out, but I'm just gonna leave it in, and we're just gonna weather this piece. So what I'm going to do here is very simple. Just grab your sandpaper and just go to town with it. Very, very simple. And we're going to be using a separate piece from the one that we used to weather the top half just now for painting, because you don't want any of the black part particles stuck here. It's okay as well if you want to use the same piece, since you know, it's weathered, and that's the great thing about weathering something, is you don't have to be afraid of making mistakes, because all mistakes just makes it look more naturally weathered. What I also don't like about this this switch box here is that the edges are kind of sharp, so you have to be a bit careful when you're spinning the thing around. But mainly gonna be weathering the side, the chrome part here, to make sure to take away that shine that, you know, weathered sabers aren't supposed to have. Right, so the bottommost band is black, and we are going to be hand painting it, okay? But yeah, that's what we're gonna do. So we're gonna hand paint it with this. You can spray paint if you want to, but I think it's because this is such a small area, I think it's better if I just, you know, hand paint this. So yeah, let's get a paintbrush over here and get some of this paint. Not too much, and we can start to hand paint this. Okay, now let's do a bit of touching up. Circle back to the first one and see. Okay, so you can see here it's a little uneven, but it should still be fine. Yep, it's mostly dried now. Thing about this is it dries pretty quickly. Oh, second one I'm pretty happy. Third one still in the process of drying. I can see a bit of the copper at the bottom, so we'll do a bit of touching up there. This is still wet, so we'll give it a little while. Yeah, first one I might have gone a bit too thick, but I think it's still okay. Alright, so now we'll set this aside. Clean off our paintbrush first. And I want to do the painting before I do the copper band, because the copper band is, what I'm going to be doing is using copper tape, and copper tape is way cheaper than getting copper paint. So what I'm going to be using is using this copper tape. It also has a nice shine that, you know, the paint after it dries, usually you lose that shine over time, but for the tape, I think the shine will stay there for a longer period of time. Also, it's a lot easier than painting, you know, this small area. So yeah, there's that. Right, so give this a bit of time to dry. I think once it dries, it will look pretty good. Okay, so now I'm back, and I attached back the black bars over here. So one thing that I want to say is you gotta be very careful when you're screwing this back, because these type of screws here, it's very easy for a screwdriver to slip, and if it does, you can basically, you know, damage your paint here. So yeah, just be careful, something to take note of. But overall, I'm quite happy with how this black turned out over here. And as for this chrome, doesn't look as nice because my spray painting skills weren't that good, but this is totally fine because we are going to be painting over this anyway, and we're going to be weathering it. Alright, so now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take out all of the tape here because we won't need it anymore. Okay, so now what we're gonna do next is we are going to do the copper band here, and I'm gonna do it in separate squares rather than going one circle. The original plan was to go full circle, but I think it'll be better if we just do, you know, separate small squares like these. Okay, so this was the copper tape that I got. Unfortunately, the first layer it's got pretty crumpled, and I didn't really like that, so we're gonna have to cut that away because it's gonna be parts that we can't use. Okay, like this. So that's one part done. It's a little bit more crumpled than I would have liked it to be, but I think it kind of adds to the whole weathered look, and we're gonna, you know, dirty this up later on anyway. So you know what, I think it's fine. Yeah, I think it's fine. So I'm gonna do it for the next 1, 2, 3, the next 3 more compartments. Alright, so apparently I'm not that good at eyeballing perfect straight lines, but I think it turned out okay. Yep, from afar you can't really tell it's crumpled, and we're gonna weather this up later on anyway, so I think that should be okay. I've grabbed some paper towels, and you really want to use paper towels for this part. You can't use tissues, otherwise you just get into a black sticky mess. Okay, so here we have some black paint. Okay, so I'm going to be doing the weathering now. So I want to get some paint on the paintbrush, not too much. Okay, and then we're gonna dab off as much as we can onto the paper towel. So you only have a very small amount of paint on the paintbrush, and then you just wanna go to town on the hilt here like this. Just a small amount of paint, very small. Make sure you get into all the corners, because usually the corners will be the dirtier part. Okay, and then once you have that, so you want to try and wipe off as much as you can with the paper towel. You don't wipe off too much, obviously, so you want to keep going until you get an effect that you like. Right, so just a bit of paint, not too much. Spread out the paint a bit. You can just do this erratically because it's supposed to be weathering. You're not painting the full thing, so it doesn't have to look nice. And you don't have to get off all the paint, just enough. It's supposed to have a few black spots, so that is actually alright. Yep, let's go for a bit more. Just have to keep going until you're happy with how the thing turned out. So we're just gonna do this small little corner here first. So just dabbing, stippling. This is what they call stippling, right? A bit more black on the center. I may have, yep. Right, and then rub this off. Yeah, I think I'm happy with that. So I'm gonna dab off the excess orange here, and I wanna do mostly the screw holes, the sides of the screw holes. That's where rusting will occur naturally. Alright, wipe off the excess so the orange isn't too bright. Okay, and then we want to do the sides of the control box as well. That looks pretty good to me. So we have this done, and we have that done. The glass eye, I think I'm gonna spray paint one of these with the chrome paint, and then I'll paint the center red. Okay, now doing the glass eye, one of the last few parts. Dab off the excess, don't go too crazy. Roughly dab on the orange like that. Oh, what? Whew, that actually looks pretty good. Like just a small amount will do. You don't need to go too nuts. Okay, we'll give the bottom here a little bit more orange. And yeah, nice, very nice. Okay, so this is how the saber looks so far. I think it looks pretty good. Now, moving on to the heat bluing for this part. This is the tricky part, guys. Alright, so I'm going to keep all this, and I'm going to be using a different paintbrush for the heat bluing. So for heat bluing, what we're going to be doing is we're going to start first with a band of Seraphim Sepia, and then we'll work our way up towards Juki Violet, and lastly the top part will be Dragonov Nightshade. Okay, so it looks like Seraphim Sepia, this paint is pretty watery. Never used this before. Oh my god. Open. Okay, so I think this is a wash or something, so we're gonna see how we can use this. Oh yeah, it looks like a wash. Very watery paint. Gotta be careful when using this. Alright, so I'm gonna start off somewhere around here, and you can, I guess you can stipple this on or something like that. Yeah, I'm gonna apply light coats and slowly build up the color. I'm gonna be going over all of this with black paint later on for the weathering, because as it stands right now it's a bit too shiny obviously. So yeah, not to worry. Ooh, this is a bit harder to use, that's for sure. And the chrome surface doesn't make it very good for painting as well. The chrome paint. So slowly go over it. Slowly build up the color. I'm not sure if the paint will stick, but it might take a long time to dry. That's fine. Right, so I went ahead and touched up a little bit of rust here on these two greenies. Make sure you don't forget those. And yeah, you can see how this Seraphim Sepia paint turned out. Okay, it's not exactly to my expectation, but we'll lay on the Jukia Violet as well as the Draconov Nightshade later and see how it looks. If it doesn't look satisfactory, you can obviously just get something else and paint over it. My regret was that the paint is a little bit too watery, the shade paints. So yeah, definitely not the effect that I was looking for. And once you get past the first layer, it's much easier to apply the paint. But the annoying thing is it keeps slipping down. That's why you see the sides here as well as the bottom here, it's a lot thicker than the center part because of the watery paint, and that is something that I don't really like. Alright, but now we are going to be painting this eye here. Okay, so the eye at the back, we'll leave it as black, and then we have some rust paint over it. So for the front eye, I wanted to do a red glass eye, so I spray painted this chrome already with the same chrome paint that I used to spray paint the top part, which is the emitter part. So now we are going to get some Citadel Mephiston red, and we are going to paint the center red, and then we are going to, you know, go ahead and add some black paint over everything just to weather it a little bit. Right, so for this one, it's gonna be a bit tricky because it's a pretty small area that I have to paint in. Hopefully I do this right. Alright, you know what? Yeah, I think that looks pretty good. Okay, so now we'll wait for this to dry, and then we can do some black. I think the black I won't do on the center part. Yeah, I think what I'll do for the black is I'm just gonna go around the sides, the silver parts. Right, so you don't really have to wait for that to dry off first since you're just painting the side. So I'm gonna screw this on, making sure not to touch the red paint. Alright, there we go. Wow, that looks amazing. Wow, that definitely exceeded my expectations. Oh, that's crazy, man. Let's set this up like that. Get some black paint. So same as just now, just grab a little bit and, you know, dab it off so you don't get too much. And we'll go around the sides here. Oops, I think I grab more. Okay, now for this part, we're gonna go for Jukia Violet right now for the second band here. You know what, maybe we'll continue this tomorrow. I'm gonna continue layering up the Seraphim Sepia first, see if I can get this to look a little bit better, because right now it looks kind of bad. Right, so what I did was I added back the screws, and then I added some rusting to them, and on top of that, yeah, I think that was all I did. So now what we are going to be doing is this was the effect. Sorry for the sunlight here. Okay, so yeah, this was as good as I could manage to get it. So now let's try layering on some Jukia Violet. Hopefully it all turns out well and, you know, looks good in the end. But right now I'm not too happy with how the brown the Seraphim Sepia turned out. So let's try layering on some purple, and I'm gonna start from not from the tip here, but rather from where the brown is, because you wanna layer the purple on top to get a nice transition, you know. And of course, this being a shade paint, it is going all the way into the gap. Okay, so yeah, this is very, what do you call it, tough to control because of the fact that it is so runny. Yeah, so this is quite annoying, but we will try our best, and you really, you know, gotta be patient to build up the colors and all that. So yeah, I personally would not really recommend this. I think it's much better and easier if you just go with a thick paint from the start. I just saw this people using the Citadel paints online, and of course Citadel paints are probably one of the most popular paint options out there. So that was why I chose to go with Citadel, but I had no idea that their shade paints were so watery. So yeah, that's a bit of a downside. Add some on this side as well. You should do one side at a time ideally, but you know, I'm not a very patient person, so we're gonna do two sides at a time. And you can see here it builds up at the sides because of how watery the paint is. The paint will just run down, and the center part is the hardest to get any color on, simply because of the fact that it's just gonna run down. Right, so I'm gonna slowly build up the layers, and I'll be right back after this thing dries. Alright, so I think I'm done with the purple. I'm quite satisfied, and this actually went by a lot faster than I thought. So yeah, the purple took like what, 10 minutes? And I think it's because I already had a base coat of the Seraphim Sepia underneath. That was why it went by pretty quickly. Now we are going to do the final one, which is Dragonov Nightshade, the blue, which is the uppermost band. Okay, so apparently my camera ran out of battery without me even realizing it, but this is the final result of the blue, and overall I'm quite happy with it. So what I did here for the blue, it's a little bit different from what I usually do, because the Dragonov Nightshade here, if you guys don't realize, okay, it's actually a lot darker when you apply it. So when I applied it over the purple, attempted to do a bit of layering, it got so dark to the point that it just sort of looked like black, and it looked really ugly, so I didn't like that. And then I had this spare tub of lighter blue paint from leftover from another project. I didn't get this specifically for this project, I just had this leftover, so I tried to use this, and the color came out a little bit too light, so the blue really popped out, and I didn't really like that for, you know, saber as weathered and as dirty as this one. So I needed a darker shade of blue. So then I attempted to mix some Abaddon black with this blue, and then it turned out grayish and, you know, too dark, pretty much quite ugly. So then I had a genius idea of, basically what I did was I just mixed this blue along with the Dragonov Nightshade. Now you just need a little bit of this, and you need quite a good amount of this. I would say the ratio is maybe like 1:3, 1 part of this light blue and 3 parts of this Dragonov Nightshade. Okay, I overdid it, and I basically got an extra, you know, entire tub here that's left over. So this is the color. Okay, I'm not sure if it's picking up very well on camera right now, but yeah, when I applied this, I sort of got the color that I wanted. Okay, and on top of that, this, because it's a thick paint mixed with a runny paint, is not as runny as the other two shade colors on their own. It's not as runny as like the Seraphim Sepia or the Juki Violet on your own, because this is a layer paint. So when you mix it together, it's actually a little bit thicker and easier to apply. So all in all, I got this effect. I do wish that I could have blended the purple and the blue a little bit more nicely. That's my only gripe, but all in all, I think I'm quite happy with how this turned out. So yeah, overall I'm really pleased with this. And now we are moving on to the last part of the external modifications, which is going to be the crystal chamber. Okay, so instead of hot glue, I think that might interfere with the lighting a little bit, because after all the dremeling, the bottom part is already quite cloudy. I'm hoping the light will still be able to pass through it just fine. But I think what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be using super glue instead. Yeah. So, ooh, this is stuck in there pretty good. Okay. Yeah, thought I was gonna break the crystal for a moment. Okay, so the bottom two set screws here, they are actually not gonna do anything. Okay, they are not gonna hold the crystal in place anymore. So yeah, I'm just gonna have it there. But we'll just fill this. We'll just use super glue for this part. Ooh, my super glue is almost all dried out. Let me see here. Okay, got some here. Just do it all around the sides of the crystal. Oh, for some reason the super glue managed to uncloud the crystal. I think it's just dust that I didn't manage to wipe off. Huh, interesting. Well, whatever the case is, it's now clear again. Okay, so we're just gonna stick this in. Alright, so the externals of the saber is finally complete. Let me just go ahead and go through with you guys while I did again another recap. Okay, so what I did was I sanded out all of the entire body with 400 grit sandpaper. It doesn't really matter what grit you use, but I chosen to go with 400 grit to take out some of that shine from the chrome. I painted this band black, and then I used copper tape for this copper band over here. Then what I did was using black Abaddon Black Citadel paint, I went ahead to wet up everything to give it that nice black look, and then I used dry Ryza Rust Citadel Orange to give it that rusting look. Okay, don't want to miss out the pommel, and of course the switch box here, the screws, the greeblies on the side here as well. Right, so this here crystal chamber has also been weathered by me using the Abaddon Black. I didn't go with any rusting for the crystal chamber, but just black, and it looks pretty good as well. So on top of that, the glass eye here, for the back glass eye, I've chosen to let it remain as the usual standard black color. Okay, but I've gone over it with the dry Ryza Rust paint to give it a bit of a rusting look. And then from the front glass eye, I know this isn't canon, but this is something that I prefer, so I spray painted the entire thing silver, the entire glass eye silver, and then I painted the center red for the red glass eye look. The bunny ears, of course, I have weathered it to be black as well. And then the heat staining here, because this isn't actual steel, so I couldn't do actual heat staining. What I did was I went with Citadel. The brown section is Citadel Seraphim Sepia paint. I would recommend using a base paint instead of the instead of the shade paint that I used, because it was a bit watery and hard to work with. For the second band here, it is Juki Eye Violet. After everything has been blended together, it looks a bit darker than normal, but I think it still turned out okay. And then from the top here, I mixed together Dragonov Nightshade along with Texley Blue. I'm not sure if that's what you call it, to get this nice deep blue color for the heat staining. And all in all, I think I am pretty proud and happy of how the saber turned out. Oh, one more thing, the crystal here has been replaced with a real quartz crystal, so you can see it's much bigger, not that small puny little standard crystal that looks, you know, pristine. So this one has some nice cracks and of course some cloudiness inside it, which really gives it which really adds to that whole weathered look. Right, so you guys should stay tuned for part 2, where I'll be installing the saber with a Profi 2.2, a Smuggler's Outpost 28mm speaker, as well as a stock custom works NeoPixel PCB. Alright, so that's it for the video, guys. Hope you guys have enjoyed. If you have, be sure to give this video a thumbs up, and of course subscribe to this channel if you guys would like to see more of such future content. Till the next time, I'm your host Korriban Sabers. Peace out.